Now we'll move on to the next part of our meeting, which is the segment we refer to as Who Am I? It's a segment where folks get a chance to talk a little bit about themselves. And in this particular case, and recently, we have gone international. And this morning, we'd like to welcome John Kitely from our Newmarket UK Club. John grew up in Kirtling, which is in the Cambridge area. He was a family of 4 sons. John was number 2. Family business was retail, and as we referred to them in the old country as shops. And the family also ran the local post office. They had a small farm also, which they supplied product to their retail outlet. And one of the big things they produced was eggs, and John became the #1 collector for the family business. When John's parents retired, John took over the business, include the postmaster position. John increased the business by adding additional space, and he sold out in 2005 when he retired. John joined Probus in 2015, became chairman of the Newmarket UK Club in 2020. John will talk a little bit more about his club and the Newmarket area. So let's welcome John Kitely to our Newmarket PROBUS Club here in Canada. Thank you, John.
Well, I say good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to all those in different time zones, which obviously are host Canada. As far as the Newmarket PROBUS is concerned, it was started by 2 Rotarians in about 75, 76, and they used to originally meet at the local British Legion Club, but it wasn't really a suitable building as far as getting people in. There wasn't any big rooms, so eventually we were able, through the help of another Rotarian who was a Mason as well, to move to the Masonic Club, where we've been ever since. We're very fortunate, although having said very fortunate, we've been very fortunate up until the pandemic came along, and obviously now we haven't been meeting like many clubs globally haven't. We are hoping to restart in early June, and our main aim is probably just to have a coffee morning just for us to get together. But to find speakers, we had a program which was already organised for our current year. I took over as chairman, which would be 2 years ago this coming September. And the idea is that we normally do 1 year. But obviously with the pandemic problem, I've retained my job as chairman, although, to be honest, I haven't done anything as such. We do keep in communication with all the members by email. And we have a gentleman that runs our website and also a member. And he gets a lot of little jokes and videos and cartoons, which he forwards to all the members. We've got 2 members out of 40 who are not on emails, so they do miss out, but they are contacted by phone. As far as the actual club's concerned, when it first started, the main thing obviously was basically fellowship, but one of our members in those days organised trips away. I mean, they actually, long before I joined, and they unfortunately have fizzled out, they had trips to Europe on several occasions, Paris and Amsterdam. I never inquired why they went to Amsterdam, but I'm sure it was a historic visit as opposed to anything else. They used to go to the theatre, and they also went to a trip on the Rhine. But these were nearly all 2-3 day visits. The club has continued membership when it first started was 75, but now unfortunately we're down to 40, and it does obviously give concern to our present committee as to the fact that when members pass on, regrettably, we do have a problem trying to recruit new members. We do encourage new members to come along. Some of them think it's not their idea of fun, and others basically just don't come very often. As far as our year is concerned, we always take August off, and we have our AGM in September. With your meetings, you obviously are much more precise than we are, because we don't have very much business when we open a meeting. We usually arrive, we have a car park which is limited, but it's usually prudent to get there in good time so you can get a space. So we usually have a coffee and a biscuit, usually a nice chocolate wheatmeal. Have a coffee and a biscuit and a natter to the other members. And then we start our meetings at 10:30, and the speaker usually speaks for about 3/4 of an hour, and then he's open to questions. We've had some very varied speakers since I joined. We had somebody from Chivers Jams, which you might have got in Canada. We had somebody that was a furniture removal gentleman who was very humorous. We've also had speakers on about swifts. That's the birds, on swifts and bees, and then also having had one on bees, we've also heard about honey producing, which was another meeting, which again was obviously very interesting. We then have had one or two outside visits. We had a very good one, which would now be 2 years ago. We went to Marshall's Aerospace at Cambridge, where we were able, having got security clearance, to look around where they serviced the Hercules bombers. Very, very interesting, but very strict security. We also visited previously to I always forget the word, it's an anaerobic digester, and it's on a farm, a big farm in the Fens, where they produce a lot of onions, potatoes, carrots, etc. And also they have a very large mushroom outlet, or a large mushroom producing plant, or one would say glass houses. And the digester produces methane, which they then use to, they make heat for the mushroom house, and the surplus electricity gets sold to the national grid. The unfortunate thing is that in our country, some of our cables, overhead cables, are very much dated, and therefore they're only allowed to supply so much to the grid, because otherwise the cables would literally melt. So it's very restricted how much they can put down the line. We have the River Cam, which runs nearby. As most of you know, they did actually have the Oxford and Cambridge boat race at Ely, which is not very far from us. In fact, we are probably about equidistant. We're probably about 16 miles from Cambridge, and probably about the same from Ely. And obviously Ely is well known for its Ship of the Desert, which is their unbelievable cathedral, which you can be seen for miles and miles around. But the Fenland, which is south of Newmarket, north of Newmarket, we're south of Newmarket, and the Fenland is very, very flat, as some of you might well know, and it's covered by numerous dikes, and there were still pumping stations that help relieve the pressure. That many years ago, a pipeline was built from Denver Sluice, which is near King's Lynn, and it runs right the way underground through to a village near Newmarket called Kennet, and then is pumped through, and it actually ends up in my village in Kirtling, where it then goes into a channel and it then goes down and joins the River Stour and ends up in a reservoir for northeast Essex, which is Colchester area. So we don't benefit when there's a water shortage. We don't benefit from that pipeline. But the thing with the weather at the moment, as you probably gathered, it's dry and cold, and we are very much lacking in rain. As far as the club's concerned, as I've already said, we are hoping to start again in June, depending on whether the club is able to reopen. Unfortunately, our steward that we've had for many years retired 3 years ago, and he still came in, and he was very, very good, very loyal to the Masonic Club, and he was him and his dear wife would produce the coffee and the biscuits. But unfortunately, Peter passed on in the last couple of months, but the club was then left without a steward. But I've been in touch with the chairman of the Masonic Club, and they are now able to recruit a new steward who hopefully will carry on supplying us with the coffee and biscuits. As far as the club's concerned that are going on about the club, we keep our meetings very brief. We only do business, a limited amount of business. We're not as patriotic as you. So therefore, obviously, we don't have the national anthem at each meeting. And the treasurer usually gives a very brief report on finances and reminds members when the subs are due, if they haven't paid their subs. The secretary gives a report. The programme secretary, we have 4 people. Well, in fact, it's more than 4, but the people that put their input in for finding a speaker. And the problem we have these days is that most speakers do make a charge, which obviously then we have to watch, or the treasurer has to watch the finances, because sometimes these speakers ask for about £100 plus travelling expenses, and that would soon bankrupt our club if we actually paid the £100. So we try and keep our costs down to about £50. Most of our speakers, fortunately, always want us to donate the money to charity. So which obviously that pleases the members to know that the money is being made, good use of. I'm not suggesting that the speakers don't deserve it. And the main charities, well, the charities in fact are very varied. We had a lady that was very badly injured in a road accident and received a lot of help from a local. It was part of a brain charity that helped her with her rehabilitation. And I think as far as other meetings are concerned, what we do at Christmas, we usually have a formal dinner for the ladies. And hearing the gentleman in France a few months ago, we are very much the same. We don't have lady members. It's never caused us any problems. We've had no ladies waiting outside waving banners and protesting about not allowing women to join. But the ladies do join us, as I say, for our formal Christmas dinner. And if we have outside visits, then the ladies are invited to join us for that, for those. And the Christmas dinner is followed 2 weeks later. So we have the Christmas dinner at the beginning of December, and then we follow on 2 weeks later, which is usually the Wednesday before Christmas. And then that's when we have a buffet and a very sort of more light-hearted, more informal occasion when we the last few years we've had a ukulele band, and then they do Christmas carols, which everybody that wishes to join in. My wife never lets me join in because I've got a terrible voice. So usually they leave it to those that enjoy singing to join in with the Christmas carols. and it's always something which gets everybody together. And I think probably everybody, I think I probably covered most things. If anybody wants to ask me anything, by all means do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, for sharing the information about your club. It's very interesting. Our management committee also extended our term due to the pandemic.